Welcome back. Today I'm going to show you how to double flare a brake line. This is strictly just the double flaring section. There's actually a lot more to brake lines than what I'm going to be able to put into this little section. So I'm going to make a playlist and this will be part of that. So I'm going to show you how to do this with a manual flaring tool and a hydraulic flaring tool. So when we're looking at this brake line, there's a little bit of a burr there. On your cutting tool, there's generally a deburring piece on the end, or sometimes it'll be built into the handle. You just take that, run it through the line a few times, and what we're left with is still a burr. So let me do it again. Okay, so what we're left with is a nice chamfered line that's ready to flare. So I'm going to use the manual flaring tool first. This particular one is a Blue Point. You can get these from pretty much anywhere, and they're all more or less the same. You will have inside of here, there's generally some instructions. You've got a flaring bar, your different adapters, and I don't know what they call that thing. So you've got your flaring bar, I guess they call this a yoke, but these are pretty much the two major parts. You then also have some adapters for different lines. This one happens to be labeled with 3/16. We're dealing with a 3/16 line. If you look at the side profile of this adapter, it actually helps us set up the line. So if you look in there, and if I put it on my hand as kind of a background, it makes almost a top hat with a point type of shape. Where you're going to line your line up with is right here at this top edge of the biggest section. Almost every one of these that I've ever used has been the same. So we start out with our flaring bar. Make sure you pick the side that has a recessed or flared section to it, because that's what's going to make the flare. Take our 3/16 line that we've made sure is free of burrs and ready to go. Excuse me. Probably. Install that into the flaring bar. We then take our adapter, turn it around like that so you can see it. And I'm going to be doing this at an angle that's hard for me to work at, but it should be better for you to see. So I'm going to loosen these things up, and I'm going to line that line up to where it is just at the edge of that lip on the flaring adapter. So it sticks out of the bar that much. I then go ahead, crank these down. And my first step on this double flare is going to be to take this, set it in there, take our flaring bar, so take the yoke assembly, thread it way back out so it fits over, even more than that. It then slides over top of this whole setup. Snug that up there. Take our bar. Ooh, it's been rusty. And what we're going to do is we're going to crush this thing right down until the bar and the adapter touch. So I'm going to go ahead. Crank that down. After it's down and touching and tight, back that back off. Slide the yoke over just far enough to get this piece out. Take our yoke, slide it directly down into the line again, and then we will tighten this up. Now on this step, you don't want to really crush it. You want to make it snug, but you don't want to go too tight. If you over tighten it, you'll actually kind of spread the flare out and start to crack it where it's not going to work properly. So once we get that snugged up pretty good, and this is something you can practice with to figure out how much pressure it's going to take with your setup, Back this back off. Take our yoke off. Undo these clamps. And then if you were going to put this on a car, this is the point where you would freak out because you forgot a really important step. What's that really important step? Putting the fitting on. So I just made a flare without a fitting. If you're going to do brake lines, someday you'll do that too. Now, because this brake line is still open on the other end, if you were to have done this, you could take your fitting, slide it over, and then you're all set to go. Okay, so what I'm going to do now, I already started cutting this end off. It's pretty much about to break. I'm using a tubing cutter, and right there it goes. So I took a little bit extra off because I wanted to get rid of the material where I had crimped with the other flaring tool. I'm going to do the same thing here where I take and just ream the end of this out so we have a nice spot to start. So we've got a nice clean area to start with. Now this is a Master Cool flaring set, and if you do very many brake lines, this is like $350 and well worth it. So I don't usually talk name brands, but I'm going to go ahead and do this one. Master Cool makes these for literally everyone. So you buy one with a Snap-on brand or a Mac brand or whatever. It's probably made by Master Cool. They had a patent on it. I think they still do. That's probably getting to the point where it'll be up soon and you'll start to see these in different varieties. But as of right now, I'm pretty sure every single one of these hydraulic flaring tools on the market is the same thing, and they're pretty awesome. So, we'll open this thing up. Inside of here, we've got stuff for double flare, bubble flare, and we've also got some fuel line setups, but I haven't really used the fuel line stuff. So we're still dealing with a 3/16 line. We're going to need our 3/16 fittings and our 3/16 vise, I guess would be what I would call this. So the way this works, and every single one of them is the same, and that's kind of one of the things I like about it, is when you are flaring with this tool, you always make the line level with whatever vise or tool setup you're going to use. So when we go to flare this double flare, we line it up to where it is level with this vise block. So we take our two halves, set our line in there, and I don't really worry about getting it lined up just right. Grab our handle, slide this together. Now what I usually do blocks your view. So what I do is I take my thumb, I kind of put it across there, and then I will loosen this up, adjust the line into the proper spot. And if you look down through there, and adjust it up a little bit. So right now that line is sticking out a little bit too much. That's going to create an issue where the flare is going to be very oddly shapen and not work right. So we'll loosen this up just a touch.
This is always the shop towels.
And we'll line that up to where these two halves of the vise block are perfect, and if you look down through there, it's right at the edge. So after we do that, we just crank this down, which then locks the line in place. Start out with our first step of the bubble flare, which is going to be just like we did with the hand tool. So we'll take this with the pin, insert it into the center, crank down on the lock here. As you go into the line, you're going to have to support this adapter and line it up so it goes into the center of the line. Now that line is in the center. We just bring this down and we just pump this handle until it doesn't pump anymore. So it just crushed that whole deal. Take that adapter out, switch to our cone. So this has a cone shape, just like the yoke on the other piece. And same deal here. You can over tighten this. So I'm going to put that in there. Again, you're going to have to work to make sure that that cone lines up into the line properly, which that one just tried to fall out. Once that lines up properly, just like with the manual flare, if you do this one too much, you're actually going to crush the end of it and it'll create a little bit of an issue. You just kind of pump this, and honestly, this is something I can't explain. You just have to get the feel for it. So right there, that's about perfect on that. Pop that out. I probably actually could have gone a little bit more, but it'll be all right. Loosen the line, knock it out of there. And again, I did this with the major no-no of not putting a fitting on there. But I didn't actually want to put a fitting on it, so I guess that works. So don't forget your fittings, and that's how you use both of these double flaring tools. Again, if you do a lot of brake lines, this kit is worth it. Thanks for watching. Hit the subscribe button, and I'll see you later.